Him and those kids he was escorting must be in some kind of trouble.
Hello and welcome to another bad movie review. This time we're looking at Sharkenstein. This is a sharksploitation film from 2016 with a runtime of about 75 minutes. Directed by Mark Poloina, written by J.K. Farlew, and starring Greta, Volkova, Ken Van Sant, Titus, Himmelberger, James Carolus, Jeff Kirkendall, and Bruce Applegate, among many others. Now the majority of these actors have some pretty good B-movie credits, and by pretty good I mean by my standards, not society's. So the story opens to bad Photoshop in 1942, where terrible German accents rule supreme, as a bunch of Nazis storm into a laboratory trying to get Frankenstein's brain. Not the doctor, the monster. Don't get your hopes up. So these Nazis agents meet up with an airplane after doing some shenanigans, and I don't think that airplane existed in 1942, but that's splitting hairs for this movie. Then we jump to modern day. The first Sharkenstein kill is hilariously bad, and it's probably my favorite one in the movie because it's so out of left field that you really don't expect it to be this goofy. It's not bad animation, it's bad Photoshop insertion, I guess, because it's not an animated shark, it's like a toy most of the time, but it looks like it was done by a high school student on a no-budget film project, and that's when I decided I'm probably gonna like this movie. So most of the time you see somebody getting attacked, it's much like this first kill where the shark just appears and then there's a blood splatter. You don't really get a lot of like shots from the shark's perspective or, you know, practical effects. It's mostly just a puppet of some sort that looks like a modified bathroom toy that like a little kid would have, but patched up to look like it's made from a bunch of other sharks, I guess. And we get a fisherman eating off a pier, and the body count just kind of rises as we go. We do get a lot of stock footage of boats and beaches that almost make this look like it's an infomercial or transitional scenes from a 1980s boat TV show like Riptide or Miami Vice, but on higher definition film. And that got kind of annoying actually with all this B-roll footage and stock footage. I mean, it looks like they actually filmed this and they're not using somebody else's footage, but it looks like B-roll and it's kind of distracting throughout the film. And that's when we meet three tourists who are going out on a boat for some reason. It's not really explained why they rented a boat, but they rented a boat, and then they go on the boat and goof off and eat snacks, and they're told by Duke, who's part of the harbor patrol, to go back to shore because there's something going on with these mysterious murders going around, and divers are sent in the water. That ends well, let me tell you. There's some really good underwater photography here though, and that really kind of looks weird when you juxtapose the high quality of the film versus the special effects that are used, because they spent money to get really good underwater shots, but not on the special effects. I don't know if they have an underwater camera just laying around, but it was a little weird to see that. Then we get kind of a recycled shot of a girl going in the water right after we saw her do this. So there's some weird kind of editing quirks where I don't know if they just didn't catch that continuity error or if they wanted to do it again. I don't know, but there was some weird little stuff like that every now and then you catch in one of these films, and it's very jarring and kind of takes you out of the film. We get a couple other kills before we really get to anything major, but the three tourists who are Madge, Skip, and Coop end up on an island. They have to swim for it, and that's where they meet Klaus, who takes them hostage at gunpoint. He needs them to help him with his questionable Nazi experiments. Meanwhile, Harbor Patrol Duke has figured out that these guys didn't come back. He refers to them as kids, and the one guy's got like gray hair. He's probably older than Duke. Duke is dyeing his hair, I think, to look a little younger, but he looks like he's about 40. So I don't know why he called them kids, because I think Madge is probably the youngest one, and she still looks like she's in her like mid to late 20s, and the others look like they're easily in their 30s or 40s. So this is where we find out that Klaus has been experimenting with the shark and using it to kill other people, and he's trying to build a super shark because apparently he has a collection of other brains, including you know who with the funny mustache, and he plans to put them in bodies of sharks. There is a boat that blows up for reasons that aren't really explained well, and they do recycle the boat, so when you see them on the boat, pay attention to the one the harbor patrol uses. It's the same boat, just with a cover over the front, and I know that because I was paying attention to the registration numbers. Now the shark does manage to break free, and the structure he was captive in somehow bursts into flames. It's not really explained, just go with it. We do have to hear this diatribe later about Frankenstein movies, and it's a little annoying because they kind of just waste time talking about Frankenstein movies for a minute, and that was a little detracting from the film. It's sort of runtime padding. The locals do form an angry mob though when they figure out that there's some shenanigans going on, so they slowly do turn it into a Frankenstein type film. They use some bad CGI to kind of change things up a little bit, and then we get some shark on human action for a second because there's an old lady porn star. I don't know, roll with it. And Duke and Madge get the idea to get some dynamite to blow some stuff up, but the dynamite is very clearly road flares that they're trying to conceal, but the actors clearly aren't understanding that they're supposed to be covering the caps, because if you can see the cap, you know it's a road flare. So I don't think they quite got the message on that one, but A for effort, I guess, just not an A+. They do make a couple of dirty jokes, and they sort of recreate a scene from one of the Frankenstein films in a sort of attempt with a lighthouse. The ending was kind of dumb though, because they did set it up for a sequel, but in a kind of lazy way that really made no sense, because the character that sets up the sequel would not have been where they were when this happened. So overall, this was a pretty weirdly entertaining film. It had some really fun dialogue and some good moments. It does drag a little bit in various parts, and I think that was just editing. They could have tightened a few scenes up and cut out a few scenes, and it might have worked better, but they needed the longer runtime, I suppose. The acting is pretty stock standard B film fare, and some of these guys have been in other films that are about on the same par as this. They're slapped together fun. They're not meant to be serious. They're not meant to be high quality. They're just popcorn entertainment to crack jokes at and have fun with. And it embraces that. The characters are all taking it very seriously, aside from a couple of jokes here and there. And I think it worked out. There were a couple of people that got eaten that I thought should have lived, because I thought the characters were funny and would have been good for other movies too. They could have turned this into like a Scooby Gang kind of thing, where the same actors play the same parts in different movies and just keep running into shenanigans. But that's probably hard to pull off. But considering the budget on this must have been barely existent, I think it actually was a lot of fun. So if you get a chance to check this one out and you really like no budget films, this is definitely going to be for you. The very end, if you watch the post-credits scene, is really pointless and stupid, and it's just there to pad the runtime. But I thought it had a lot of potential to set up other films. There was some weird stuff in here that really didn't make a lot of sense, but it doesn't really need to. It's a goofy movie, and if you take it as that, as like a lower than Sci-Fi Channel film, I think you'll probably find something amusing here. But if you don't like low budget films, why are you watching a movie called Sharkenstein? Seriously, like, your discernment abilities probably should be called into question in other areas of your life in that scenario. But I thought it was a pretty solid, no budget, entertaining movie. It's just not meant to be taken seriously, and it's probably not going to be something you rewatch a lot unless you're introducing people to it for the first time. So a sharksploitation film for the ages, but definitely not for general audiences, and probably not even for the majority of B-movie fans. This is for the diehards that want to watch what you can make with little to no budget and a couple of friends, because that's the type of film this is. And I've seen a lot dumber films over the years, but with better special effects and more money behind them. And I would rather watch this again than watch some of those. And I'm talking about Denzel Washington's John Q, because that was one of the stupidest movies I've ever seen, and Sharkenstein has that beat hands down. So that aside, that's gonna do it for this episode. Thank Thank you so much for listening and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the episode, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel out in other ways, links are in the description to various support methods. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.